Wealth, fame, power. Antonio had obtained all of this and more, yet nowhere in his treasures was a single shred of happiness. This is the plot of William Shakespeare's 1596 play The Merchant of Venice, a fascinating drama intended to be a comedy and fated to later on become known as instead a tragicomedy, and most curiously, a grounds for speculation on how literary composers can represent the emotions arising from human experiences as well as the techniques they manipulate to do so. Similarly, Othello, which is another one of Shakespeare's works, albeit having been written in 1604, also shares the trait of entailing representations of the universal human experience. However, unlike Merchant, it was always intended to be received as a tragic story. In this multimodal video presentation, I will be unpacking both texts, particularly their context and the human experiences and values they explore, as well as the literary techniques they employ to convey such messages. Foremost, the universal experiences I'll be focusing on for this video are frustration, love, and jealousy. These are human experiences which I feel I personally can connect with, and I hope you can too through this presentation. And on that note, let's dive in and explore firstly the universal human experience of frustration. Everyone in this room knows the feeling of frustration because everyone in this room is a human. This is why frustration, along with love and jealousy, are considered to be universal experiences, meaning they've existed within everyone at some point. In Merchant, most notably, the play kicks off with Antonio, whose mental state seems to be nothing short of tumultuous. We can see him turning to his friends who are willing to hear him vent his sadness, confusion, and above all, frustration. Antonio cannot for the life of him deduce why he's feeling the way he's feeling. And Shakespeare's intricate manipulation of the character he's establishing him to be at this point builds a framework for how we perceive Antonio throughout what's left to come of the play. The phrases Shakespeare has selected for Antonio to speak clearly convey his frustration has led him to react by turning to his friends, doubting himself, and interestingly, avoiding the self-depreciation which would make himself only feel worse through boasting of his material possessions in a way akin to using them as some sort of safety net, which enables him to still feel proud of himself. In Elizabethan times, though, it was all but common for people to discuss mental health with one another, especially when compared to the society that we, the modern audience, live in. Shakespeare makes use of a slew of other characters too. For instance, the individual Salarino says this quote in Act 1, Scene 1, lines 46 to 50, which expresses that all of his possible reasons for Antonio's sadness seem to be missing the mark, and that if it's not love or his business, then the only other thing he can think of is his plain lack of joy. This is a clever way to show the contagious nature of frustration and how it's spreading from Antonio onto his friends. Similarly in Othello, Iago's character establishment and development causes us to notice the frustration that he bears towards Othello, so we can come to understand his reasoning behind him manipulating Othello into killing Desdemona. Two completely different genres of drama, however, the conveyed human experience is curiously the same. Let's see if this holds true for another human experience: love. Romantic love, sexual love, platonic love. This one four-letter word can convey limitless feelings. But how are they conveyed in The Merchant of Venice? Let's consider its context. A play written in Elizabethan England about Renaissance Venice. In these cultures existed a very firm concept of what love should be, and there was little dispute over the idea of a man and woman in a relationship. Merchant challenges this through denying Antonio a romantic partner in the drama, as well as giving the audience reason to speculate the potential of homosexual attraction. In Act 1, Scene 1, lines 131 to 133, when Antonio speaks of owing love to Bassanio, the audience can easily look over such a phrase as the context of the line hints to a love closer to platonic love or a brotherhood. However, then in lines 138 to 139, when Antonio elaborates to then state that his person, and extreme means are unlocked to him, this emotive language and wording emphasizes the impact and the significance of the line, comparing Antonio's body and possessions to a treasure that can freely be unlocked by Bassanio, who is his key. We know that treasure isn't locked away for just no reason, and therefore the impact of this on the audience is that we begin to notice some sexual and romantic undertones from Antonio toward Bassanio in this dialogue. This clearly conveys to the audience that Antonio is experiencing some very strong emotions towards Bassanio that have made him unable to restrain himself from making such suggestive comments. Because of the context of the play, we know that this suggestion wouldn't have sat right with much of the audience at the time. And this contributes to the already tumultuous nature of the already complex play with its multiple subplots, another similarity it shares with Othello. Human lives aren't one straight line from start to finish, so why should a play about them be? Othello's main plot may be a very linear story with a clear start and finish. However, courtesy of its subplots, we are able to get to know the status of the relationships between characters beyond just that of protagonists Desdemona and Othello, whose relationship we come to understand in great detail before and during its destruction at the hands of manipulation, mistruth, and above all, jealousy. We all know the feeling of wanting something someone else has, but is that truly all there is to it? I find the best way to understand the true meaning of jealousy is to compare it with envy. According to languagetool.org, that feeling of just wanting something someone else has is simply envy. Jealousy, on the other hand, refers to feeling threatened, fearful, or protective because of something that someone else has. And it's this jealousy that is referred to by Shakespeare as the green-eyed monster in both Merchant of Venice, Act 3, Scene 2, and Othello, Act 3, Scene 3. This metaphor, comparing jealousy to a monster, a creature that brings forth terror, has the effect on the audience of first increasing the scale we perceive this emotion to be on. And what this means for us is that we aren't able to simply pass it off as, oh, the character's jealous. Instead, the imagery of this technique instructs us to picture them having this green-eyed monster inside their body like a form of possession, wreaking havoc on their life. Furthermore, the words green-eyed suggest that the monster in question has a physical form like some sort of beast. This action of giving jealousy a vessel that we can picture further adds to the impact we feel when we're hit with these words. It's this subtle suggestion through literary technique that truly decides what each phrase means to us, and the jealousy aspect in particular reveals to us, the audience, that jealousy is something closer to an emotion which takes control of you, rather than an emotion you can control to an extent like anger. Which raises a question within me. Our own bodies are meant to be the one thing we can control. We can't control other people, nor can we control things like time and fate, and all the rest. So if something as common as jealousy is all it takes to control us, what do we really have control over?